11 priests murdered in one night. Unlocking dark secrets from the Black Bible at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, a ghostly hour that seemed to throb with dread. In the eerie silence of the abandoned cathedral, shadows danced against the cracked stone walls, flickering like fireflies in a graveyard. For weeks, whispers floated through town tales of a cursed relic, a Black Bible said to hold the secrets of life and death. And now, with 11 priests lying lifeless in the chapel, those tales seemed hauntingly real. Their eyes stared wide in terror, frozen in the last moments of their lives. Was it murder, or a dark ritual gone horribly wrong? Outside the cathedral, onlookers gathered, their faces pale and drawn. They murmured in hushed tones. What darkness lurked inside those walls? As the local sheriff, red-faced with anger and fear, pushed through the crowd, the tension crackled like static in the air. The scent of damp earth and decay filled their nostrils as they thought about the blood that soaked into those cold stones. Then, like a bolt of lightning, a figure emerged from the entrance, cloaked in shadow. It was Father Samuel, rumored to have dabbled in the occult. His expression was stone cold, yet his eyes betrayed a storm of emotions: guilt, fear, and something else, something sinister. "I have seen the book," he shouted, and the crowd gasped collectively, retreating a step back. "It shows you how to unleash the darkness within." As he spoke, a shiver ran through the gathered crowd. What had those priests been hiding? What kind of power had they called forth from that Black Bible? The energy in the air thickened, pulling everyone in closer. The mystery deepened, tantalizing and terrifying. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air crackled with anticipation as Father Samuel stepped closer, his voice dropping to a breathy whisper. "You don't understand. The Bible demands a sacrifice," he said, eyes darting around as if the night itself would strike him down. Panic swept through the crowd, faces pale with horror. What would happen next? Was it too late to stop the darkness? Would the town ever feel safe again? A gust of wind howled through the cathedral, stirring the pages of the Black Bible that lay ominously open on the altar. The shadows deepened, and the night was far from over. The murmur of the crowd grew louder, reverberating against the cathedral's ancient walls. Eyes widened, glancing nervously between Father Samuel and the darkened altar where the sinister book lay, as if it were a malevolent beast waiting to be awakened. What kind of sacrifice? A trembling voice pierced through the whispers, revealing a woman stepping forward. Sarah, a local librarian known for her insatiable curiosity, stood at the forefront, her eyes darting between the priests and the cloaked figure. "What have you done? What do we need to do to stop this madness?" Father Samuel hesitated, the weight of their gaze pulling him down. He looked pained, like a man who had wrestled between darkness and light for too long. "This isn't just about them. The Bible binds the souls of the righteous to its pages. To protect the town, someone must take their place. A life for a life." His voice faded, leaving a heavy silence hanging over everyone, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. A chill swept through the onlookers, a wave of dread spreading like wildfire. "No one is going to die for this," shouted Tom, the sheriff, his fists clenched. "We'll go in there, grab the book, and put an end to this. Call the authorities." Another shouted, panic creeping in. "Get help. We can't face this alone." But the truth slithered into their minds like a serpent. Could anyone truly help them if darkness had already seeped into their souls? As if summoned by their fears, an unnatural wind gusted through the cathedral, flinging the doors wide open. A prickling sensation climbed the spines of everyone in attendance. Shadows twisted and contorted as they danced on the walls, pillars of darkness broken only by the flickering view of the moonlight. It was as if the very essence of the night was alive, and it was hungry. Suddenly, the altar trembled violently, and eerie whispers seemed to spill from the pages of the Black Bible. They were words no human was meant to decipher, chanting echoes of a forbidden language that entangled the crowd in an unseen grip. Do you hear it? Sarah's voice was a howl above the chaos, her eyes widening in realization. It's calling for us. Father Samuel's face paled further, and for the first time, fear flashed across his features. We must not listen. It's a trap. The more we acknowledge it, the stronger it becomes. But it was too late. The crowd felt a pull, a strange desire to uncover what lay within those cursed pages, as if the book had opened a window into their deepest fears and desires. Faces contorted, some stepping forward, drawn to the altar like moths to a flame. "Get back!" Tom roared, reaching out to grab Sarah, but she was already moving toward the altar, eyes glazed, entranced. "Don't leave me behind," she cried, her body trembling as the whispers intensified, calling her by name now. The movement became chaotic, and the crowd erupted into a frenzy, some screaming to resist, while others stumbled closer to the unfolding nightmare. The air thickened, suffused with an electric tension, like the moments before a storm. Father Samuel shouted, "If we don't stop this, we'll all be lost. They won't just take a life, but our souls." But his words were drowned in the cacophony, vanishing into the suffocating atmosphere that surrounded them. The darkness encroached, a malevolent tide rising within the hallowed space, and fear gnawed at the edges of every heart. As the shrieks mingled with the whispers, a terrible realization dawned: the Black Bible wasn't just a book. It was a gateway. But to what? The townsfolk had only moments to decide. Would they save themselves, or would they dare to uncover the truth hidden within the blackened pages? The shadows leaned in closer, and as the crowd twisted in chaos, one singular thought echoed in every mind: it was now or never. And then, the shrill, unearthly laugh erupted from the altar, filling the cathedral with a chilling promise of doom. What awaited them next? Would their souls be consumed, or would they find a way to fight back before it was too late? The grotesque laughter crashed against the high vaulted ceilings, reverberating through the crowd like a thunderclap. Faces twisted with panic transformed into grim masks of determination as the reality of the altar settled around them, suffocating and stifling. "Tom, we can't just stand here," Sarah shouted, breaking free from her trance for just a moment. Her voice pierced through the chaos, a beacon of hope in a whirlpool of confusion. But the shadows from the altar loomed larger, creeping closer, gripping hold of her with an invisible force that threatened to pull her in. No. Tom was desperate now, the gravity of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He fought against the currents of fear. "We need to get everyone to run. We don't know what that thing can do." Around them, the townspeople appeared as if caught in a visual nightmare, some screaming, while others stood frozen, mesmerized by the dark power radiating from the book. It was consuming their will, and fear changed into a collective madness. "Support each other," yelled Father Samuel, his voice cracking, but resolute. "We can't let it divide us. United, we can resist the temptation." He stepped forward, drawing upon every ounce of authority left in him. But moments later, a stone from the altar shattered with an explosion, raining glassy fragments over their heads. One glimmering piece struck Father Samuel's cheek, drawing blood. "We must find a way to close that book," he yelled, flinging his arms wide, "before it chooses one of us." A shudder coursed through those assembled. The whispers escalated, each word coiling like a serpent wrapping itself around their wills. "It won't just pick anyone. It knows the darkness in our hearts," Sarah cried, panic lacing her voice. "It won't choose me, it won't choose you, it will choose the weakest." "Shut up," bellowed Tom, catching her gaze, desperate to hold her back from descending deeper into that abyss of despair. "We need to find something, anything, to combat it." And so, desperation united them. The glow from the Black Bible brightened, illuminating twisted faces in the crowd, revealing the greatest fears of each soul trapped within. Shadows danced like flames, revealing glimpses of death, betrayal, and loss, clawing at their minds, washing them with despair. Tom's heart thudded against his ribs. The shadows were much more than mere darkness. They were memories repressed, dredged below years of careful living. "Sarah, the light," Tom shouted, pointing to the flickering candlelights lining the cathedral's periphery. "We have to use them." Light drives away darkness. Sarah blinked, clarity breaking through her haze. Yes, light can force the shadows back. But we have to work together. Others nodded, ignited by a flicker of hope. They crowded around the candles, some grabbing efforts of their own, hearts pounding with urgency as they raced towards the blackened altar. Suddenly, a bone-chilling shriek sliced through the whispers. The figure cloaked near the altar lunged forward, its arms outstretched like ravenous claws reaching for their souls. It was a grotesque reminder of the darkness they faced, an angel fallen from grace, lined with silver and draped in shadows. "No," bellowed Father Samuel, rallying near the front. "We won't be taken by your lies." Flames ignited from their hearts, and one by one, they struck the candles against the pages of the Black Bible. A blinding light erupted, pushing back the shadows, but the cloaked figure screeched, twisting in agony as the light tried to engulf it. But just as they thought victory was near, the book snapped shut, as if the very act of defiance had provoked something within its cursed pages. The church shook violently, and the ground beneath them groaned. "They've awakened it," shouted Sarah, her eyes wide with realization. The walls of the cathedral began to crack, and the world narrowed down to darkness. Who would pay the price? They were on the precipice of losing everything or gaining something beyond their wildest fears. And then it happened. The altar shattered, unleashing a wave of darkness that swept over them. What horror was now unleashed? And could they find the strength to face it? Or were they past the point of no return? The shockwave radiated, throwing Tom and Sarah off their feet. Darkness washed over them like a tidal wave, swallowing the flickering candlelight and snuffing out hope with a thick blanket. Confusion spun around Tom like a cyclone, disorienting him as he fought to regain his footing. "Get up. We need to move," he shouted urgently, reaching for Sarah, but the shadows slithered like oily serpents, wrapping around his legs, pulling him deeper into the abyss. With every ounce of resolve, he broke free, lunging toward Sarah, whose face was painted with terror and disbelief. The crowd erupted, people scrambling in every direction, the whispers morphing into a cacophony of shrieks and cries. "Run!" Huddles of townspeople shouted, but the fear that bound them was paralyzing. "Sarah!" Tom bellowed, desperation clawing at his throat. It felt like they were trapped in a nightmare where escape was a distant memory. "We have to find Father Samuel." Just as they began moving toward the altar's debris, a deafening crack tore through the air. The cloaked figure re-emerged from the darkness, its silver-wrapped wings unfurling in an otherworldly shimmer, glinting ominously under the remnants of light. It floated towards them, its hollow eyes boring into Tom's soul, unveiling every hidden fear, every regret. "Tom, it knows." Sarah quivered, her voice barely a whisper. "Stay close," he barked, tirelessly pulling her along as he scanned the crumbling pews for Father Samuel's familiar silhouette, hoping to find guidance before it was too late. But the church was no longer a refuge. It was now a twisted hall of horrors where shadows danced and pulsated with an insatiable hunger. "Together, we can fight it." Father Samuel's voice rang out, breaking through the darkness. Tom whipped around to find him standing behind the altar remnants, blood seeping from deep cuts along his arms. He was defiant, holding two flickering candles like torches in a storm. "Bring the light. We can bind it back." Spurred by a flicker of hope, Tom and Sarah raced towards him, dodging the swirling shadows that darted toward them like fireflies gone mad. But before they could reach him, the cloaked figure shrieked in outrage. A gust of dark energy lashed out, knocking Tom to the ground. He gasped, the air flecked with burnt ash and despair. Through the chaotic whirl of fears and shadows, he felt the oppressive weight of the decision looming over him, the moment when light could extinguish or surrender altogether. "Sarah, don't look away. We have to believe." Tom clenched his fists, mustering a desperate strength from his core. He reached deep within, recalling their love, their laughter, the life they had built together. "Together," he shouted, feeling the surge of resolve. With every ounce of will, they moved towards Father Samuel, who was raising the candles higher. "Now, light," he commanded, his voice steady in the pandemonium. Tom and Sarah focused on the candles, pouring all their strength into the flame, imagining it igniting through the darkness. The flickering light grew brighter, slicing through the shadows like a knife, and for a moment, it felt like victory was in their grasp. But just as the darkness retreated, the figure emitted a heart-stopping howl. The congregation gasped, voices breaking in distress. "It won tea, let us go," shouted a woman from the crowd, her eyes wild with fear. The ground trembled beneath them again, and the air thickened, the shadows elongating, clawing at their legs, trying to drag them back toward the abyss. "We must hold on." Father Samuel's voice resonated like a drum, firm and unyielding. But even as the light brightened, the pop of a candle flickered out, and darkness inched forward again. "Tom, I can't," Sarah gasped, trembling. The uncertainty in her voice was palpable. "Remember," he urged, his heart pounding more fiercely than ever. Then, an explosion of energy shattered the air. The altar trembled and groaned as it began to collapse. Would it crush them before they could reclaim the light? And just before everything surged into utter chaos, Tom felt something shift in the atmosphere. "Can you hear it?" he whispered to Sarah. "The chanting, it's coming from the book." What dark secrets would the Black Bible impart next? And could they harness that power, or would they fall deeper into the shadows? Tom's heart raced as the echoes of the chanting enveloped him, a harmonized whisper that felt both sinister and alluring. The shadows recoiled slightly at the sound, hesitating as if the melody wielded some ancient power. "What is happening?" Sarah asked, panic creeping deeper into her voice. "The book," Tom shouted, trying to be heard over the tempest. "It's connected to this darkness. We need to get it." Father Samuel, struggling to maintain his grip on the flickering candles, nodded sharply. "The Bible holds knowledge, but it demands a price. Only those brave enough can decipher its truth." Tom didn't waste time. He pushed through the chaos, pulling Sarah along as they fought against the thrumming shadows. The cloaked figure snarled, a wretched grimace etched across its shadowy visage, fury radiating from its form. With every step closer to that darkened altar, Tom sensed the stakes rising. The gravity of their choice weighed heavily like a falling stone. "Stay close," he urged, glancing back at Sarah. She nodded, her eyes wide but resolute. Together, they clutched onto that frail thread of hope, the flickering flames guiding them through the veil of darkness. As they neared the altar, the insatiable shadows twisted in rage, trying to claw back their hold. "Do not falter," Father Samuel bellowed. "Concentrate on the light. Let the warmth of hope banish the cold despair." Tom reached the altar and spotted the Black Bible, bound in blackened leather with grotesque gold lettering swirling like serpents across its cover. He could feel its pull. It thrummed with raw energy that sent shockwaves through him. "There it is," he shouted, extending his hand toward it. But the cloaked figure launched itself at them, a torrent of darkness propelled by anger. Swift as a striking serpent, it slashed at them, ripping through the air with an eerie shriek that seemed to seep into their bones. "Tom!" Sarah cried out, and in that moment, time seemed to slow. The shadows coiled around her ankles, stubbornly binding her in place. "I can't let it take me." "No," Tom yelled, adrenaline surging through his veins. He gritted his teeth and lunged toward her, desperate to pull her free. "I want to let you go. We're in this together." As fingers grazed Sarah's, the touch ignited an unexpected fire within her. "The candles, Tom," she gasped. "Use the light." He whipped around and saw Father Samuel battling against the night. "Sarah, we can do this. On three. 1, 2. With a mighty yank, Tom pulled Sarah free. They stumbled but held on to each other, a lifeline amid the chaos. The cloaked figure dismissed them momentarily, turning toward Father Samuel, who struggled to keep the candles alight, his strength waning. 3. They shouted together and dove for the Black Bible. With their hands gripping the ancient tome, a surge of energy cascaded through them. The shadows recoiled, hissing as the candles flared brighter, illuminating the faces of the terrified townsfolk. Hope crackled in the air, mingling with the scent of smoke and despair. "Open it," Father Samuel shouted, his voice full of urgency. "Now, we must recite the incantation before it's too late." Tom flipped the pages frantically. The words glowed with an eerie luminescence, a battle hymn resonating deep within him. "What do I say?" he struggled to ask, heart pounding. But before any incantation could escape his lips, the ground quaked violently once more. The churning temple groaned, and cracks snaked through the floor beneath them, threatening to swallow everything into the abyss. "Tom, hurry!" Sarah screamed, urgency and fear coiling around her words to end that heartbeat of time. Tom's gaze darted between the cloaked figure and the trembling lines of the Black Bible, realization crashing over him with a wave of icy dread. Would they unleash more darkness by reading those forbidden words? Or could they harness the very shadows that sought to consume them to reclaim the light? The cloaked figure howled, its voice a discordant echo of the torment it unleashed. Its hollow eyes bored into Tom, daring him to make the choice. Pressing his palms tight against the flickering pages, Tom felt the weight of responsibility, the suffocating anxiety of uncertainty, and with one deep breath, he began to chant. Would he summon salvation or invite disaster? The moment the words left Tom's lips, a deafening silence descended upon the chaos. The flickering candles paused, and for a heartbeat, even the cloaked figure halted its crazed assault. Instead of the expected terror, silence wrapped around them like a heavy blanket, smothering the chant as if it was a cry that dared not echo. Tom felt the energy molding around them, warping reality. With each syllable, the shadows around the cloaked figure twisted violently, as if the very fabric of the night was resisting the ancient words. He could feel Sarah's grip tightening on his wrist, her fear bleeding into him. "Tom, stop. It's not working," she cried, her voice raw with desperation. The shadows around the altar writhed, forming more tendrils, creeping towards them. Panic surged through Tom. The weight of the moment pressed down on him. He fought the urge to run, to flee from the menacing grasp of darkness that threatened to pull them into the depths. Why wouldn't it stop? He shouted into the fray, scrambling for control, for answers. The air vibrated, mimicking the unsettling heartbeat of despair. A single candle flickered wildly, illuminating Father Samuel's ghostly face. The man's eyes turned bright with an urgent flame. "Keep going. Trust in the light. You must declare the chant with conviction." The words of the incantation pushed past Tom's lips, and this time, they flowed with a new strength. In that moment, he could feel the words digging deep inside him, awakening a hidden resolve. Shrieks erupted from the cloaked figure. The shadows recoiled violently like a living entity backed into a corner. "No, you dare invoke that power," it screeched, each word dripping with rage. "I will," Tom roared, finding his voice amidst the chaos. "We will not let you take her." The candlelight expanded once more, refracting off the darkness like a beacon. Tom felt Sarah's presence beside him, her support igniting a flame in his heart. Together, they held the Bible, forcing the pages to dance in the light of the candles. Each word surging seemed to swell with purpose and defiance. As he chanted, the cloaked figure's form shifted erratically, a grotesque silhouette of frustration and fury. "Your souls belong to the darkness. You cannot break the bond," it bellowed, but a tremor in its voice hinted at uncertainty. With each line they recited, something deep in the ground crackled and crumbled, fissures racing through the stone floor. The air thickened with tension, and a shadowy claw reached for Sarah. "Tom!" she cried out, terror lacing her tone. Without thinking, he whipped around, extending his free hand toward her. "Hold on. Stay with me." The clash of energies radiated from the incantation. Bathed in light, the shadows began to recede. Father Samuel unleashed a powerful shout, breaking through the cacophony. The final verse. "Now, you must finish." Tom's heart pounded against his chest, urging him to fight through the fear weighing him down. Together, he yelled and chanted the last words in unison with Sarah and the priest, their voices melding into an unbreakable bond of light. The energy erupted. A bright flash filled the temple, engulfing the figure entirely. An agonizing scream filled the air, echoing throughout the stone walls. The cloaked figure dissolved into a shroud of smoke, its curse evaporating into nothingness, swallowed by the light. But just as they began to breathe relief, the ground trembled again, knocking them off balance. Tom felt the weight of the temple itself shifting. "Tom!" Sarah screamed, pointing at a new, ominous shadow coalescing at the far end of the altar. Something far more sinister than before was stirring. What had they unleashed? "What now?" Tom gasped, heart racing. As the truth loomed before them, Another voice rose from the shadows, a voice far too familiar and filled with malicious intent. You thought you could defeat darkness? You've only awakened me. Their battle was far from over, and the real horror was just beginning. Tom barely registered Sarah's scream. His senses sharpened as he finally turned to see the source of that chilling voice. The oppressive shadows at the altar pooled together, molding into a grotesque figure, dark and menacing, with crimson eyes that burned with a hate both alien and intimate. Who are you?" he stammered, his throat dry, words feeling like stones in his mouth. Laughter erupted, hollow and echoing against the stone walls. "You know me, Tom. All your pathetic efforts, they amuse me." The presence shifted, almost slithering forward. It was intoxicatingly terrifying, pulling at something deep inside him. "You thought you twisted fate in your favor, but darkness does not die so easily." A memory gripped Tom's mind like a vice. A childhood name whispered in dreams, a name he had long buried. "No, it can't be. Yes, dear Tom," the shadow sneered. "Just like the others before you, you have opened the door. But instead of sealing it, you've given my essence the breath it needs to walk among you once more." Fear coursed through him. He glanced at Sarah, her face pale and etched with disbelief. He couldn't let her see him falter. Mustering strength, he squared his shoulders. "We stopped you once. We can do it again." "Oh, sweet child," it hissed, the voice smooth as silk but laced with venom. "You have no idea of the power I possess now. Better men than you have tried to stand against me." The walls of the temple seemed to echo with the tortured screams of the past, their words twisting into a cacophony that clawed at his mind, trying to persuade him to surrender. "Tom," Sarah gasped, breaking through the noise. "Remember what Father Samuel said. We can fight this together." He reached for her hand, squeezing it tightly. The warmth of her touch ignited something within him, a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. "We won't let you claim us. We are stronger." The shadows responded violently, as if enraged by their defiance. They clawed at them, tentacles of darkness snaking across the altar, each one whirling like a snake ready to strike. "Your light is feeble," the figure roared, summoning gusts of wind that sent the candles sputtering. The flames flickered as if battling a fierce storm. "Feel despair wash over you." Clenching his teeth, Tom tried forcing down the rising panic. He couldn't let this being feed on fear. "We have faith. We stand against the dark." The air crackled, and the shadows shrieked in displeasure. They twisted, forming into shapes that reminded Tom of those they had lost. A face emerged, one of Father Samuel, frozen in anguish. "No," Tom shouted, shouldering the weight of grief. "This ends now." He reached into his pocket, his fingers brushing against the small cross he'd always carried. With determination blazing in his chest, he pulled it out, holding it high. "In the name of all that is light, I command you to leave." Light exploded from the cross like a fireworks display, illuminating the cavernous space. The darkness buckled, shrieking and flailing about, caught off guard. Yet, even in their struggle, the shadow laughed, a chilling sound that echoed like thunder. "You think a mere trinket can shield you? I am eternal." The shadows continuously morphed, splitting and reforming, but Tom felt the grip of darkness starting to weaken. "Surrender. There's a way out of this, Tom," it hissed, seeming to sense the shift in energy. "No," he snarled, voice fierce with conviction. "It's you who must surrender." Tension held the air as they battled against the oppressive force. The cold wind swirled intensely, creating chaos, but they stood firm, anchored by each other's resolve. Just then, the room plunged into an eerie calm. All at once, the shadows held their breath, caught in a moment of stillness. "Fools," it seethed, regaining its strength. "You've merely given me an invitation to grow." With that, the shadows erupted once again, a potent storm of dark fury headed straight for them. "Tom, we need to unite our strength," Sarah cried, fear etched across her features. As the entity unleashed its fury, he closed his eyes, feeling Sarah's presence beside him, drawing from her courage. He felt the weight of all they loved and all they had to lose. "Together," he shouted. But would it be enough? The darkness surged forward, the shadows crashing toward them like an avalanche. They braced for impact, the world tipping upside down. But what would rise from the chaos? Would they find power in unity, or be consumed forever? As the darkness threatened to close in, A blinding light pierced through, a beacon begging to be unleashed. "Tom!" A voice called out from within, familiar and commanding. Now is the time. Would the light survive the storm? Or would the darkness triumph once more? The blinding light surged forward, pushing against the cold, cruel shadows. Tom's heart pounded wildly in his chest as he kept his grip on the cross tight. Sarah was beside him, her presence a steady anchor in the chaos. "Focus, Tom," she urged, her voice slicing through the roar of the darkness. "We can't let it win." With a deep breath, he felt a surge of warmth radiate from the cross. It felt alive, throbbing with an energy he thought long lost. The shadows hesitated, swirling as though unsure of their next move, their grotesque form flickering like a dying flame. "You think that little glow can hurt me?" The dark figure bellowed, voice dripping with malice. "You are foolish to try." But in that moment, Tom remembered the stories of Old Man Jenkins, whispers about the ancients and the light that could shatter the dark. He remembered the weight of loss, the faces of those they fought to protect, and how love could be a weapon stronger than fear. "Together," he shouted again, feeling Sarah's fingers intertwine with his on the cross, an unbreakable connection forged in trust and vulnerability. The light intensified, cascading down like a waterfall, consuming the darkness in brilliant hues of gold and white. Tom and Sarah stood in its epicenter, a radiant glare of defiance against the terror that loomed. "Enough!" The entity roared, rage twisting its features. The very space around them pulsed with its fury, a whirlwind of despair looking to swallow them whole. It lunged again, a mass of shadows and claws intent on extinguishing their flame. "Don't let it in. It seeks to turn your light into its own." Sarah screamed, terror lighting her features. Tom's mind raced. What did that mean? He understood it was trying to burrow into their hearts, to plant seeds of doubt and fear. He closed his eyes again, envisioning the love he had for Sarah, his friends, and the lost ones. Channels of strength flowed into him, mirroring the incandescent light. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, writhing away as if burned. "No, this is impossible. You cannot resist forever," it shouted, panic threading through its voice. "Watch us," Tom cried, unleashing the full strength of the light. The luminous wave washed over the entity, wrapping it tightly as it shrieked a sound, so piercing it sent vibrations through the stone and earth. The shadows flickered but kept fighting, darting around them like wild animals, desperate to reclaim strength in that frenzied moment. Tom seized Sarah's gaze. "We must push now. This is our chance." With conviction, they focused together, the cross steady between them like a bridge to the divine. But just as they thought they could vanquish the creature, a chilling echo pierced the air, twisting the very fabric of their reality. "You are nothing, mere mortals playing at gods. Your time will come." The shadows exploded one last time, enveloping them in darkness, deeper than fear itself. The light was dimming. Tom gritted his teeth, choking on despair. "I want to lose you, Sarah." With a mastery he didn't know he possessed, Tom pressed the cross hard against the ground, shouting, "In the name of love and light, I cast you out." Then came the deafening silence. As if the world held its breath, the darkness wrapped tightly around him. But as Tom's pulse raced, he realized something fundamental. It was not mere faith that held the shadows at bay. It was their bond, a connection woven through heartache and triumph. And through that realization, a second light flickered in the shadows, one of solidarity, of shared resolve. But just as hope flickered in their chest, images crashed through their minds, visions of the faces they thought long gone, horrors of the past that screamed with presence. "Tom, wake up." Sarah's voice trembled, the shadows inching closer, desperate to feed on their doubts. Would it consume them? Or could they truly fight together against the rising tide? Suddenly, the darkness spooked as a loud crack resonated through the chamber, splitting open the ground beneath their feet. "Tom!" Sarah screamed, uncertainty laced with urgency, as the abyss widened. What lay beyond that chasm? Redemption or oblivion? As they stood on the precipice, staring into the void, they knew one truth: everything depended on what they chose to embrace next. The abyss yawned before them, dark and uninviting, beckoning with a promise of nightmares. Tom held Sarah's gaze, their grip on the cross tightening as they dangled above the precipice. His heart raced, drowning out the chaos that surrounded them. "Don't look down." Sarah's voice was steadier than she felt. She squeezed his hand, the warmth of her touch igniting a flicker of courage deep within him. But the shadows came alive around them. They coiled and twisted, reaching out like vengeful fingers, hungry for their light. Each creeping tendril dripped with malice, whispering doubts that clawed at Tom's mind. "Look at what you've lost, Tom," the entity hissed. Its voice slithered in, smooth and deceptive. "They're gone forever. Your love is powerless. You cannot fight the truth of your failures." The memory of their past failures surged forward, faces of friends they couldn't save, moments of weakness when they turned away. The weight threatened to crush him. Tom fought against it, pushing the pain aside. "No," he shouted, his voice breaking the encroaching darkness like a knife. "I won't give in. I won't let you twist my heart." With every ounce of his strength, he focused on Sarah. Her determined expression grounded him, tethering his resolve. As if reading his thoughts, she pulled him closer, their shared warmth breaking through the shadow's grip for just a heartbeat. "Together, remember?" she whispered fiercely, the shadows momentarily faltering. Tom nodded, and with a united force, they raised the cross high, letting it channel their combined love and unwavering hope. Light poured forth, a blinding wave that drove back the darkness, illuminating the chasm before them, revealing its depths. Unfathomable darkness swirled below, but in its depths, something glinted, a promise, a threat. Yet the shadows retaliated, swirling around them, feeding off their doubts. "You think your love will save you? Love is a made-up concept. It will only betray you in the end." A sudden chill swept through the room, bearing echoes of fear and despair. The world around them shook as if the very ground was split between polarities, light and dark. Cold tendrils of shadow clutched at their feet, dragging them toward the void. "Tom, hold on." Sarah's resilience beckoned him forward. He could see it in her eyes, the same determination that sparkled when they'd first started this fight together. She was the anchor, the fire pushing through the cold. But just as they began to gain ground, the shadows surged, overwhelming the light. "Embrace the inevitable," roared the entity, its form shifting and battling against the light cast from the cross. "You will join me, just like all the others." Images formed, swirling and twisting into monstrous shapes, their friends, fallen priests, ancestors lost to darkness, frozen in despair. Each face was a reminder of what they had to lose, and the horror it ignited inside them threatened to choke out the light. "No," Tom screamed. The force of his protest chipped away at the shadow's hold. "You are wrong. I choose to fight, not just for us, but for every soul lost." "Then watch as your love fails," the darkness hissed. With another surge of shared energy, Tom and Sarah poured their hearts into the cross once more, flooding the space with light. As it pushed the shadows back, the abyss beneath them trembled violently, the shadows screeching in protest. Yet, just as the dark finally began to fade, a sliver of revelation stabbed through Tom's heart. "Sarah, what if this is a trap? A plan to draw us in deeper? To separate us?" The thought hung in the air, heavy with dread. Would the chasm swallow them whole, forcing them apart? Or was there strength to be found in facing the depths together? As darkness recoiled one final time, the shadows let out a deafening cry. With a violent shudder, the ceiling trembled, and fragments began to fall. The chasm expanded, and the abyss whispered their names, every word laced with devilish excitement. "Choose wisely, Tom. Time is running out." All around them, chaos erupted, a cacophony of sound and fury pushing them to make their choice. Could they defy the void? And as the last flicker of light illuminated the chamber, they prepared to step into the unknown. The whispers of the abyss swirled around them, fierce and relentless. Tom and Sarah stood on the edge, hearts pounding and eyes fixed on the unfathomable darkness below. The shadows writhed like a living entity, pulling the very air from their lungs. Yet amidst the terror, there was clarity. They had faced darkness before. They had fought for love and light, and they could do so again. "Together," Tom said, his voice strong against the encroaching night. He squeezed Sarah's hand tightly, feeling the warmth that radiated from her spirit. "No matter what, we rise together." They shared a fleeting glance, a spark of understanding passing between them. In that moment, the persistent shadows receded just a fraction, as if uncertain of their bond. The cross pulsed with their collective light, shimmering like a beacon of hope against the black tide. "Now," Sarah shouted, and with that, they thrust the cross forward, letting its brilliance splash across the darkness. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the brightness, twisting in agony like their very existence was threatened. With each chant they recited, the power of their unity surged. The figures of the fallen priests, once trapped in limbo, began to materialize from the turmoil, their faces a tapestry of struggle and sorrow. "Tom, Sarah." Their whispers echoed in the air, a mix of gratitude and longing. "Free us." Tom felt a surge of purpose. "You are not lost. We are here to reclaim the light." With resolve deepened, he focused on their faces, those who had sacrificed, those who had suffered. The flicker of their lives fueled his determination. He felt the air crackle with energy as the light of the cross intensified. "Trust in the light." Father Samuel's encouraging voice surged forth from the spirit realm, intertwined with the others. The ripple of their collective memories sparked something deep inside Tom. He would not let their fear and despair drown out everything they had fought for. Together, they shouted in unison. The shadows erupted in fury, swirling violently around them. Everything seemed to mute. The cacophony of fear stilled for a heart-stopping moment. And then, with blinding clarity, they closed their eyes and concentrated, releasing what remained of their fears into a collective force. Turning despair into fierce determination, the darkness shrieked, contorting into twisted shapes as they felt the very fabric of the shadows tear. The light expanded, consuming all it touched, and slowly, the shadows began to dissipate. The howls of the entity were drowned out by a symphony of defiance, voices rising to reclaim their stolen stories. And just like that, it broke. The darkness imploded, a torrent of jet-black smoke erupted, washing over Tom and Sarah in a violent wave. But this time, instead of fear, they felt empowered. The shadows shrieked, a sound like 1,000 nails on chalkboard, and then they were gone. The cathedral trembled, cracks forming along the walls, dust filling the air. But amidst the ruin, light spilled through the cracks of the walls, illuminating the chaos with warm, golden rays. A rumble pulsated beneath their feet, a promise of redemption from the brink of despair. Tom turned to Sarah, eyes brimming with tears of relief and joy. "We did it. We actually did it." He pulled her into an embrace, the world around them slowly returning to balance. The weight of darkness slipping away as the echoes of despair faded. The spirits of the priests began to dissipate into the light. Their faces softened into expressions of peace. "Thank you," they murmured, a chorus of gratitude that wrapped around Tom and Sarah like a comforting shawl. "Remember us, and remember the light you carry," one of them whispered before fading into the golden glow, leaving the remnants of their pain behind. As the last shadow dissipated into nothingness, the cathedral sighed, its once terrifying shadows transformed into the soft solace of dawn. The townspeople, once gripped by fear, slowly emerged from the facade of the church, lingering in awe at the victors who had reclaimed the light for the living. Tom and Sarah exchanged meaningful glances, knowing this battle had been fierce, but their love and unity had prevailed. They stepped forward out of the cathedral, entering the gentle break of day, filled with a tired yet unwavering hope. "Where do we go from here?" Sarah asked, her voice soft against the morning chill. "Anywhere we want," Tom replied, squeezing her hand. "Together, we'll make sure darkness never claims us again." As they walked, the sun rose higher, casting shadows that danced playfully across their path. The town emerged anew, vibrant and alive, a community rekindled by hope. The darkness had been defeated, but the bonds they forged through fear remained steadfast, a promise to carry the light. And with that, Tom and Sarah faded into the horizon, embraced by a world woven with endless possibilities, knowing that together, they would never fear the dark again. Now, before you move on, listen here. You need to subscribe now to catch all the upcoming exclusive content. This is the moment to show your support. So smash that like button like never before to feed the algorithm. And I want to see you flooding that comments section. What did you think of the ending? Any theories? Did you love it? I want to hear it all. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us grow this amazing community so we can dive deep into more gripping tales together.